Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach, and I am back for another episode of my podcast, Macro Social Work Your Way. So I'm so excited because it's been a while, I feel like, and since I had an alum of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator on to talk about their career journey and all of the wins they got as a result of spending dedicated time working on their career. And so we have one of many interviews coming up, but this one is really good because this person has experienced huge wins as a result of being inside of the accelerator. I can't wait for her to like really delve deep into it and share all of the details with you all. But welcome, Amy. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, Marthea. I honestly can't even believe I'm sitting here, like in this seat talking to you as an alumni because it feels like just yesterday that I was on the other side and listening and hearing all of your alumni who have made such progress. And my journey, I think, has looked really different than a lot of your alumni, at least from the ones that I know of their past. I actually am in entrepreneurship now, and yeah, there were points where I thought, oh, I would never be on Martha's podcast. Like, I'm not the traditional person, but yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my journey.
Yeah, and so that is a great point, right? And for the listeners, I want you all to understand that people get a lot of wins inside of the accelerator, and a win is not just defined as a macro job. People get wins as far as clarity, wins as far as increasing their confidence. Amy, yeah, a win is starting her own business, right? We've had several coaching clients, several alum come through the program who are now consultants themselves. So a win doesn't just show up in your personal space of life. It also, excuse me, in your professional space of life. It also shows up in your personal space of life. So I'm excited, Amy, that you're here to share with people so we can start looking at where are the other areas that Micro to Macro Career Accelerator alums win and experience transformations, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it. Introduce yourselves to the people as a human first before you like give us an overview of what you've done career wise. What do you like to do in your free time? Who are you as a human?
Yes, and I love that you always ask this question and you drilled this into us in the program. We are people outside of being professionals and social workers, and we're also people outside of being moms. I'm actually a mom. I got pregnant during the Micro to Macro Accelerator program, which changed my whole trajectory of everything I thought I wanted to do because yeah, I was like, I can't find a new job now. I won't have time with my daughter. So we'll get into all that. But I just love that you asked that question. So, outside of being a social worker and a professional, I am a mom. I have a 17, almost 17-month-old daughter. In 2 days, she'll be 17 months, which is crazy because, yeah, when I started Marthia's program, I was telling her before we started recording that I started in March of 2023. Um, and it is crazy how much has changed. I feel like I lived 10 lifetimes since, and I owe a lot of my development and confidence to this program. So I'm a mom. I love the beach. Actually, I'll get into that, but my business is called Waves of Becoming. I'm a huge beach girl. I grew up on Long Island by the beach in New York, and now I live in Florida, Palm Beach County, where Marthea is from, like 25 minutes from the beach. So I love the beach. I love working out. I love reading. And yeah, that's been a great thing about entrepreneurship is just more flexibility to do things I enjoy while still trying to figure out work and all the things.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Most definitely. Amy and I have a lot of similarities. She lives where I grew up. So it's always a joy to hear about what's happening in Palm Beach County. And her daughter, I remember when she said that when she told the group, well, I think you told me first that you told the group that you were expecting. I was excited because I think your daughter is like baby number four, our fourth accelerator baby. And I was so excited because believe it or not, like when you start really getting intentional about your life and it's like, okay, Martha, you don't connect everything to careers, but it really truly is true. When you start getting really intentional about your life, it opens up so much more capacity to think about other areas of your life because Amy's a married woman, but I don't think that she had the capacity at that time to start like actively family planning, right? But it
Mhm.
opened up these other avenues for her, and I love that so much. So, Amy, give us, I was going to say, before we start diving into the stuff that the people want to hear, tell us a little bit about your professional background. Where have you worked in the past? Describe like your case management jobs and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so I love this question too, and I love like how you want us to how we talked about describing kind of where I was before entering the accelerator program because truthfully, I was desperate. I was like, please something work. I originally got my MSW in New York City in 2014. So my background as an MSW is actually we had different tracks. I went to Columbia for social work and they had different tracks. They had clinical, they had social enterprise administration, they had policy, and then the track I did, which was advanced generalist practice and programming. So I'd say it was more mezzo. I was intrigued by social enterprise administration, but again, at the time, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I was like, I can't do, that was more like businessy. I was like, I'm not a businesswoman. That's crazy. Um, I liked clinical because that's all I really knew, but I was like, I felt even from grad school, like there was something else out there. People say, go into social work, there's so many options. So I was like, I can't do the clinical track. So did AGPP. My second internship was an adoption program. It was actually a private adoption program within a nonprofit. So I led adoption groups for adoptive children. And then I also, the biggest part of that was planning a whole annual adoption conference, connecting with speakers, marketing it, like all the things I did that was really cool, but didn't know how to put a name to it. It didn't feel like social work to me at the time. There was no one there to be like, this is, I mean, my manager said it was social work, but I was young. I was like, I don't know. But looking back, I loved it. Then I graduated, got a job in adoption, and every job seemed to get more and more clinical. And I just was feeling burnt out. I worked in community mental health. I worked in child welfare in New York City, doing in-home family therapy in a not so great area of Brooklyn, New York. And my dad at the time was not pleased. He was like, please be safe. Here's some pepper spray. I was like, I need a job. So looking back, I can't believe that I was like a young girl in my early 20s going in these neighborhoods by myself at night. But I survived, luckily, made me stronger. And then I worked in community mental health, supporting children and families. So most of my work has been with children and families. I worked at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York at their primary care clinic with pediatricians, doing collaborative work with an amazing team of pediatricians and social workers. Then during that time, COVID happened and I got reassigned to the COVID intensive care units, which was so scary as a social worker who had only worked with children and families. I was like, I have no medical background. Who am I to support these families? Like, this is so stressful. They're not even allowed to come into the hospital. Like, I'm the only one that will pick up their phone call because the doctors and the nurses are inundated. I thought they'd be angry at me because I didn't have any medical updates for them. They were all super nice, like the kindest families. All they wanted was an ear to listen to. It really showed me like social workers, we have transferable skills. If you have emotional intelligence and you're able to do like you can work in almost any setting Doesn't mean you should want to or should be able to work in any setting because, as Marthea talks about a lot, let's not be the expert in everything. Um, but so yeah, so then I moved down to Florida, got a job at a hospital. It was nothing like the COVID work. It was case management, discharge planning. My team was amazing. It helped me like feel at home because it gave me that sense of community, but the work was not aligned with me at all. So at that point, I was desperate. I knew of Marthea through the Corporate Social Work Collective. I think she had presented for them. I'd been following her for so long. Even in that time, I think I worked with a different career coach because I think I maybe didn't realize exactly what Marthea did. And I found this other career coach. She was fine, but like didn't get it, like didn't understand the social work profession, didn't understand how to transition my experience right. Finally, I said to my husband, something's got to change because I was this close to being done with social work. I was like, I had a love hate. I told everyone I'm grateful for like the person I become as a social worker, but I don't like the field. I don't like the career choices. Then I was in probably many of the people listening to the shoes, listen in my car on my way to work, listening to Martha's podcast episodes, being like, okay, this, I need to just do this. So I bet on myself, I did it, and yeah, that I'm so grateful. It gave me so much inner work, more, it gave me so much more than career coaching.
I love that, right? I'm taking notes. You know, I'm a note taker. You said it gave you so much more than career coaching. We're going to come back to that. But what I would love for to hear from you is, so you talked about the jobs, the quality of jobs, and this is for the listeners. Amy knows she is heard me go on these rants about job quality, and not every job is created the same. So you talked about like the quality of your jobs being not safe or maybe not aligned, or you didn't feel like you really were thriving in those roles. And then you also talked about a period of time where you were like maybe deciding to leave the profession. When did you decide that maybe I should look at the other side of the social work profession, as far as macro level work?
Yeah, so I think I always knew the term macro, and even in grad school, knowing that there was like that social enterprise administration track, but they didn't really talk about it. And then even like I said, my clinical, I mean, my track was advanced more meso, so in the middle, and I loved it. But then when I graduated, I just didn't know where to look. I typed in social work jobs. And newsflash, if you've listened to Marthea long enough, or if you're new here, or every social worker knows what types of jobs come up when you look on Indeed or LinkedIn or Google for a social work job. It's the direct practice, it's the case management jobs, jobs that are desperately needed, but jobs that are very hard, very high burnout, low staffing ratios, all the things. So I think through like being part of other communities like that were talking about it, like the corporate social work collective. So then I started like being like, oh, there's corporate social work. And at one point I thought HR sounded cool. And I think it was you, Marthea, that told me, maybe I'm pretty sure it was you that was like, HR is basic, or maybe you talked about it on a podcast, and I was like, I feel targeted right now, but this is right. HR is basically just case management in the corporate world. And I was like, yeah, that's not what I want to do. So I realized then I started just reaching out on LinkedIn and networking with a lot of people. Um, and I was like, wow, there are social workers doing cool things. And I realized that like social work is different than anything else. Like, I think if you're in the teaching profession, like you have a teacher heart, but like if you leave teaching, like you could still teach, but you're leaving education. Whereas like social work, you can be in any place and still be a social worker. So that's what I realized was like an aha moment that just be your setting doesn't define your identity as a social worker. And I do love the values of social work. I love the skills. I love the um people, most of them that are social workers. So I realized it wasn't a problem with the career path or the field or the fact that I had an MSW is a problem with like the types of roles that I was applying for and working in.
I love that. I love that a lot. That's helpful to someone that's listening right now. So if I remember correctly, you attended my webinar around like how you're already qualified to get macro social work jobs or something along those lines. I forget the title, but it's
Yeah.
very similar. Yeah, very similar to the webinar that I'm providing right now. Pause for those who are listening. If you have not scheduled or registered for my upcoming webinar, you should, because I'm going to be breaking down the five of the experiences. Amy just taught in great detail about the transferable experiences that every social worker has. I'm going to be breaking down the top five transferable experiences that every social worker has right now to get a macro social work job. The link is in the description below at macroandpaid.com. So I believe you came to the webinar. I really do because I you came through cohort 9. So even if you didn't come through the webinar, what? So you said you talked to your husband. You're like, hey, I think I need to go this direction. I've tried, another career coach. I've applied on my own, all of the other things. Well, let me clarify. Had you applied to any macro jobs on your own?
Um, I think so, yeah. I don't know
Okay.
if I'd say they were I applied for other jobs outside of
Mhm.
direct practice. I don't know if they'd all be I applied. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's good. So you have the discussion with your partner, then so what was like the final thing that made you say, okay, we're all on board. This should be the next step. Like, was there any key event that happened that made you just like really say, here's my card, sign me up?
Um, I think because we were already talking about family planning, and I was like, if I'm gonna have a child, like I can't keep working these jobs where I'm miserable because I knew enough friends who are parents and like as a social worker, you work with families and parents who are stressed out, and you see the things that can happen if a mom is stressed out and not in a good place mentally. So I was like, I need to have a career that makes me a good person, and that I'm proud of in order to show up and be a good mom one day. Yeah, I was just like, okay, like if I don't do it now, like, and then I have a child, like I'm never gonna figure my life out. So yeah,
I
that was.
love that. I love that. Again, that's helpful for someone most definitely because it's usually always some type of key event that has happened or people are planning to happen when they finally decide, like, I'm going to join the program. Right. A lot, what I've noticed over the like looking at my data is that a lot of people are going through some type of life transition. Either like for Amy, they're having a baby, or for others, they're getting married, or they're relocating, or they're becoming the caregivers of their parents, or they're, getting out in the world on their own, right? There's usually some people usually follow me and like they consume the content, but there's usually one key event that just makes them say right now is the time. And it's never really just the job, right? If that makes sense. It's never really the job because a lot of people go through that dynamic of, I call it rage applying. I'm not saying Amy did it, but like when the people piss you off, then you're actively searching. And then like they give you bagel day or pizza day, and it's like, oh, I'm good again, right? That is not enough for a lot of people to sign up. It has to be, I'm noticing that it's other things, but it's usually from the personal side. I love that. So let's talk about your journey into the program. What was like your onboarding process like? What did you think after your first call or two? What were your thoughts about it?
Now we're going back. Had a whole baby since then, huh?
Oh, I know. Well, you could just talk about in general. What was your journey like in the
Yeah.
program as a whole?
Yeah, as a whole, I mean, I loved going through the program. Like I said, I got so much more than just career guidance and career coaching out of it. Obviously, Marthea is a social worker, so she knows how to do that, help clients do that deep inner work. And I didn't even feel it at the time. Like at the time I was going through the process, I was following the exercises Marthea gave us, and I was so focused on like this is gonna lead me to a job that I didn't even realize like the other impacts it was having on me until I took a step back after my daughter was born. Um, but just something that stood out to me was really just how Marthea she would see stuff in us before we saw it in ourselves. Like she was like, you need to be doing a job where you're like connecting and networking. And I was like, why? Like, I thought I was just networking because like that's what you're supposed to do on your job search. But then I was like, wow, I do actually really like talking to these people and I am excited and I like connecting. Like, this person is really good at this and this person needs that and connecting them. And so, yeah, it was just the whole from like the beginning and just something that was interesting was when I think when I started the program, it I think I was the first cohort that went into like open enrollment. Um, so that part like threw me for a loop because all of a sudden there was like new people and I was like, oh, like I liked our people, but like the new people were cool too, right? So it was just like a transition of the style, which ended up being amazing. But any change is hard. So you're like, oh, this is weird, but it was nice because then there were people at different stages. So that was cool for me as someone that loves supporting others and uplifting others. It was like people were at the beginning stage, and I could be like, oh, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though I didn't know it at the time, because again, it took me, we'll get into it, but my wins weren't that quick because of everything else I had going on. I was family planning, did get pregnant. So my wins weren't as quick as maybe some other people, but like Marthea said, there weren't like anything is a win. So just like that aha moment of, oh, I actually like outreach and like all these things. I actually said to one of my friends this morning, I said it's so interesting because I was preparing for this call and I was like, before the program, like I was frustrated by the systems that I knew, and I wanted things to change, but I didn't have the system thinking. Like my mind wasn't going there because it was so conditioned by the settings I was in that what I do is therapy or what I do is this. Like I wasn't encouraged to use that other part of the social work brain, the system thinking, which I think in grad school when I did that adoption conference, that's what was happening was the system. And nobody really like my manager was great and supervisor supported me, but no one was like, this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z. This is why this conference is social work. We're bringing together, now I can look back and be like, oh, I was bringing together adoptive parents or the already adoptive parents, prospective adoptive parents, legal counsel for like that specialize in adoptions, therapists like all these people for one cause in this huge setting, and we're impacting so many more people than we could on a one-to-one session supporting a family that wants to adopt. We're creating a whole conference for them. So I wish I can't go back, but I wish back then, like someone said to me, like, this is the system of social work instead of just like, oh, you're planning this conference because you're an intern. And this is what your role is. And then when I got into my other roles, like I was just getting frustrated and I didn't have that like leadership that was like, well, what are you frustrated about? Let's figure out ways you can use that frustration at a system level or even a community level. So that was probably the best thing I got out of this beyond like my now entrepreneurship journey was like becoming a system macro thinker.
Yes, I love that most definitely. And that's a great point for those who are listening around. because I am a why person, I have to know the why in order to buy into it, to do it with proficiency. That's why, I did case management for 5 years, but I didn't thrive in it because they don't naturally tell you the why. So I spent a lot of time investigating, figuring out the why. But I purposely design my program that way. And that's just how I teach naturally. I always tell people the why to create buy in so you are able to connect the dots. So what Amy is talking about is a great example of just like the intentionality that I really did put in the program. Like I tried my hardest to appeal to all learning styles. And I use mine as the point of reference. Like I'm a visual person. I need to see it written out. I love good examples. Give me 1,001 real world examples. Like a
Yeah.
theoretical example is great. But how does that look in real life? And then the why. It's a few things that you said, Amy, that's really helpful to the listeners, and I really want to tease apart a few of them. So, just for everyone to be clear, for me, what Amy's win was, yes, she has a tangible outcome. She's an entrepreneur. She's doing public speaking. She's doing all of these wonderful things. But the root of her win was career clarity. She got clear on what it is that she needed in her career in order to thrive, that really utilized her innate interests and passions. And I know passions is a very generic term, but how I use it inside of my career clarity framework, the 3 P's framework is what is the thing that you enjoy doing outside of work? And can we maybe borrow one of the 10 that you have and infuse it into your career so it can increase your career satisfaction rates? And so, very early on, because I think it's only been two of y'all, I recognize that Amy is a connector. She's a mover and groover. But like my technical term is a connector. Like she said, Amy is a natural networker, right? She's not going to enter a room even if it's virtual and you're not going to know her and she's not going to not know you by the end of it, right? And so we need connectors in macro spaces because me, the introvert, I'll talk to you one on one, but I'm not going to go and strike up a conversation. But
But I'm an
Amy,
introvert too, Marcia. I'm introverted. Don't let this fool you.
I like
I-
my friend Sharika. But she's just like you. She's a connector. She never meets a stranger. And so we need people like that. It's her and one other person. It's been two of you all, but we need people like that. And so what I realized very early on about Amy is the connector. So that's why she talks about the experience in her first job with planning the event. What she enjoyed about that was because she was able to bring together all of these people, all of these different stakeholder groups, all of these moving parts from one common objective. And that really was tapping into her zone of genius, right? She's really good at it. She's really good at it. We need connectors. And so I love to hear you talk about that because career clarity is a major win that everyone has. And it's the foundational thing that you need in order to figure out, like, what do you do next in your career? Right. So for Amy, it branched out into, oh, now I understand how I could tap into what was the term you used earlier? I'm looking at my notes. Social enterprise,
Social entrepreneurship.
social entrepreneurship, how she's able to tap into that, right, with using her strengths and her interests. So let's talk about Amy, what does your work look like now? So you are an entrepreneur. I know you do public speaking. I see your clips and things.
Yeah, so right now, so when my daughter was 6 months, I went back on LinkedIn. I reached back out to Marthy. I was like, I'm ready to find a macro social work job. And then I connected with people and I found all these social work entrepreneurs. And obviously Marthea is a perfect example of a social work entrepreneur who's, creating her own thing. And I found others and I got involved. I had time because I was looking for jobs and I met another social worker, Eva Ford, who is also known on YouTube as the Rich Social Worker. And we can talk offline, Marthea, but I'd love for all of us to connect. Um, and she founded the Social Work Wealth Conference, which was virtual fully virtual in 2023. And again, I was pregnant then. I remember seeing things on Instagram, like social work wealth conference. I was like, that looks really cool. Like, what? Wealth, social work, crazy. Um, but I was not even in the headspace to engage. And then I started seeing things again around the time that I was looking for a job. And someone I had connected with on LinkedIn was on the team supporting the social media. And she was like, you should meet Eva. I think you'd be really helpful for the conference. So I met her. I was like, I've got all the time. She seemed like a cool person that I'd learn a lot from. So I ended up, volunteering. And I put this out there because I think as social workers, like, we don't want to do free work, we want to be paid. And of course, that's ideal, right? Life is expensive, but through doing this work, I've grown between like Marthia's program, realizing my strengths, and then applying those strengths in this real world example. I learned so much and got such a transformation that I wouldn't even be able to put a dollar amount. So I'm definitely not advocating for everyone to go out there and do free work because that's not sustainable and that will lead to burnout. But in this situation, it was really, really transformative for me and I got a lot of value out of it. So I supported the conference. I helped with a lot of behind the scenes tech before it, and then it was actually a hybrid conference this in 2024. And so it was virtually and then also in person. A small percentage of people were in person in New York City. I live in Florida, but the stars just so happened to align that I was already going to New York that weekend for a family event. So I was able to attend in person that Thursday of the conference. And like a month before the conference, Eva sent me a message saying, I have the perfect person to moderate the plenary session of the conference. And I was like, who? And she's like, you. And I was like, me? I think I was still in Marthia's program when that happened. And I was like, I was so nervous because, again, if you had told me a year ago, like you would moderate a conference, especially in person, I'd be like, absolutely not. But I had Marthia in the back of my head. I had my career development. I had all the things that I got from Marthia's program of like wins and how to use that in my branding and all of that. So I said yes and I did it. And then after the conference, Eva told me that she's launching a community out of the conference called Ripple Collective, and that community is actually live now, which is so surreal. So again, supporting that through a volunteer basis right now as the community manager, which is just so fun and really like my ideal job. And then I also launched my own business called Waves of Becoming. And that was born out of my journey of motherhood and seeing like these other communities that I'm in for, social workers and the community Marthia has. And actually, I connected with someone in Marthia's community who now joined Ripple Collective. So that's really cool. And just bringing cool people together that are doing cool things. And so as a mom, I started joining all these mom groups on Facebook and locally and trying to build community because I moved to Florida 4 years ago almost. And once I became a mom, I knew people, but I didn't really like have friends like I had in New York that had kids. I didn't have that connection, and it was like really isolating, lonely. And so I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and I joined all these local mom groups, but I still felt overwhelmed by like the noise of motherhood. So I ended up starting to think about a coaching program for moms like me that are introverted, deep feeling, highly sensitive, that didn't go through Marthia's program, that don't have the skills to put themselves out there and to do the inner work. And I was like, moms need this work so badly. It's not just about careers, like they need this. So I am creating a coaching program for moms with young kids ages 1 through 6, because 0 to 1, you're just in survival mode. You're not ready for that inner work, honestly. And then through that, I was thinking bigger because of Marthea, who's like big picture, like coaching program's great, but not every mom needs coaching. So I'm in the process of brainstorming a community outside of Facebook, outside of Instagram, that has no, that is not pushing ads down your throat, that is the algorithm's not going to get you. Your kid's turning one, the algorithm's not going to know, like, here's all the first birthday gifts you need for your child. So yeah, I'm in the early stages of planning to create and launch that, but it's all super exciting, not super fiscally rewarding at the time, but I see the bigger picture and I'm really excited. And Marthea posted something on Instagram the other day that I was like, yes, like this is, I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, I got so much more out of her program. So it's so crazy to be here because there were times where right after I had my daughter listening to your podcast being like, "Oh, I like did I fail in the program? Like I don't have this job." And I think what I realized my priority shift when I became a mom and every time I looked for a macro job to apply for, I was like, "Well, I want to decide my travel schedule. I don't want them to decide it and I want to decide my time off." So, here we are.
Yeah, I love that. And there's two specific things I want to talk about. The first thing is like when you talk about volunteering, right? Volunteering is a good thing when you have a targeted, when you are super clear about the direction that you want to go in. So you're right. Volunteering isn't bad. It only becomes like unproductive if you are volunteering for a research position, but you're interested in community building like you are.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and this is
also,
for the
I would say to add to that, if you're volunteering, make sure the person you're volunteering for is also mentoring you, because that
Mhm.
was a huge piece for me is getting the mentorship at the same time.
I love it. But clarity for everyone listening is the root of all of that. Like honestly, if I could just do clarity coaching with people, I would. That is really what I want to do because that's what I love doing, helping
Yeah.
people actualize and see what else they can do in the wide world and bring it all together. Like you say, I am a big picture thinker. Another thing I wanted to talk about was and I did not write the note. You said it at the end. I'll come back to it. But I most definitely did take down the post that I made the other week was you're not unmotivated. You are just uninspired by a job that doesn't speak to your values, way of thinking and doing, or your long-term goals. And I captured Amy's comment. You said, "This is so relatable. Since going through your program, I found my voice, leadership style, and dove into entrepreneurship, things I would have never saw myself doing in previous roles." That's what it was that I want to talk about. The fact that the program is way more than resume writing. So I wanted to make that clear to everyone listening that it really is a hybrid between leadership coaching, confidence building, clarity work. And then on top of all that, I teach you the fundamentals of knowing how to get a job. The other thing that I wanted to also mention is you talked about how your plan change once you got into active like okay we are having this baby now, and so for everyone listening your career plans should change based on where you are in life. The biggest problem I see with social workers that I don't work with is that they're holding on to plans, career plans for themselves that they developed when they were a whole different person, when they were in a completely different phase of their life. But like Amy said herself, she's a mom. Now she doesn't want to leave her baby. And Amy, I know I gave you this speech. Like once you have your baby, you're not gonna want to do none of the stuff you were doing before.
I do. That's so funny. I do remember you telling me that. And I feel like at the time I took it as like, oh, you're gonna want to stay at home or like be and like I was like, no, I'm gonna still want to work, but that could look different. So yeah.
Exactly. So, like, as your life changes, your career should evolve with it. But where people get stuck is they, one, don't understand that your life should change. It's actually a theory. It's called the career development theory that says, okay, every phase of your life, your career should be changing with it.
Hmm.
So I wanted to name that for people, but where people get stuck is that they don't know how to make that shift. They don't know how to like identify, okay, what is my new interest? What are my new non-negotiables? What are my new needs? What do my values look like after my last career experience? What do I need in my future employer? And these are all things that we delve into inside of the accelerator. And it's just not me telling people what it is. I'm teaching you my process to figuring it out on your own. This is why Amy has had huge success, and she finished the program almost 2 years ago. She's still using the fundamentals to figure out her next phase. Okay, I'm going to do this next based on these values that I've identified myself. These are my needs. Because also, Amy, I know I talked to you before, like, y'all got to start saving. Well, I'm sure you are, but investing in the 529 plan for college planning for the baby, which I love her. I love her fashion style. She's boho chic like me.
Yeah, that's been the fun part about like doing entrepreneurship within the same life stage that I'm in. So like supporting moms, because I'm like, it can be overwhelming too. And I'm sure you experience this as like an online entrepreneur. It's like your mind changes and you're like, is this content? Like, is this something I can share? But like, because we're social workers and we're mission driven professionals and we really believe in what we're doing, it's like I'm coming to terms with like the marketing aspect and being like balancing like authenticity with like I really like you don't need it if you don't like I only want to be for the people that want it, not the people that feel they need it because social media says it, but yeah, it's a hard balance, but it's been fun including my daughter in the process.
Yes, I love her. Yeah, you most definitely don't want to spend your time trying to convince people they need it. Like you want to attract people who know they need something. They may not be able to
Mhm.
verbalize it, they may not be able to articulate it, but they know they need something.
Yeah.
So, I know you have been very truthful, but with this next question, I want you to just tell the people what it was. Don't feel like you have to sugarcoat it. You kind of touched on one earlier about like challenges. But you're correct. Cohort 9 was where I changed the design of the program, and I had intentionally designed it where other cohorts that would cycle in with the current cohort. So what that looks like is cohort 9 was in the program, and then I brought in cohort 10 somewhere around the midpoint end of cohort nine's time inside of the program. And I did that for a very intentional reason, to provide more opportunities for meta learning. And Amy talked about, I swear we didn't plan it, but she talked about it so eloquently around the fact that meta learning opportunities are, you get to see how other people are learning, taking in, and implementing the information that I give out in the accelerator. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've talked to a few people who are now inside of the program, and at first their concern is like, oh, other people will be in there that are different point at different points than me. What if I? But their concern usually is always from the point of, I don't want to feel behind other people, right? And so then I have to frame it as an opportunity for even more in-depth learning and like consume, like taking in the information that's being given to you. But what other challenges did you experience while in the program? Did you get stuck anywhere?
Um, I don't think I think the big place that I got stuck, and I think it wasn't really until now being on like so much on the other side and like being more like I almost feel like now if I were applying for I don't want to apply for a full-time job. I'm very excited about what I'm working on, but I feel like since starting to work on entrepreneurship and like really nailing down like my area of expertise, I think I still struggled with like believing that that was my expertise. Like I was like I know I knew it because I was building all these relationships with people and networking and I think I came to one of your um calls talking about the program while I was still in the program to talk about my experience and I loved that. I love coming like now talking to you, but I really struggled with that imposter syndrome. It really sticks with you and I think as social workers, we're so ingrained to believe that like we're just good at a lot of different things and not a real expert in one area. Unless you're like like I always thought like, oh, I need an advanced certification. I know Marthea talks a lot about certifications and um I thought like at one point I thought about going for my MBA because I was just like I need something to like get more expert in whatever. But yeah, I think honing, like once looking back, I think if I would have believed more strongly that that was my expertise when I was applying for jobs, like maybe I would have got something like quicker. But at the end of the day, it all worked out how it was supposed to because if I got something like before my daughter was born, I would have been overwhelmed and trying to make it work and not having the space to really pursue entrepreneurship. So it all worked out, but that was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, most definitely everything happens for a reason. When would you say was the breakthrough or the turnaround moment where you believe that you had what it took to do what you envisioned for your career?
I think it was just staying involved in community, being involved with the Social Work Wealth Conference and Ripple Collective, and even just like that, moderating that conference session and putting myself in positions that made me believe it. Like, I'm like, you just did it. Like, you have no choice but to believe it. And starting to hear more, just putting myself out there on LinkedIn and getting positive feedback. I know in 2025, my goal was to be on one podcast, and I was already on one that's coming out July 30th, and now being on yours. And actually, right after we talked about this, someone reached out to me wanting to connect about potentially being a guest on theirs. So it's like once you believe and put that energy out there, and I was never a super spiritual person. But I think over time and dealing with grief and loss and becoming a mom, it's like you have to believe in something. Like, I don't care if you're religious or spiritual or what you believe in, but you have to just like put that energy out there that, and then you get what the energy you put out attracts things to come in. So, I guess the turning point was really just putting myself out there and finally believing that, like, manifesting that something good will happen because I've dealt with a lot of shitty things over the last few years. So, yeah.
Love that. That will most definitely help someone I know. So you talked about being able to identify where your turnaround point, part of that being like where you were able to identify where you did these, what we call higher level experiences. Would you say you would have been able to identify those moments prior to being inside of the accelerator? Like, this is a big deal, even though it's unpaid, this is a big deal.
I don't think so because I definitely before being in the accelerator program like wrote down like my work history and like tried to peel apart like I was able to peel apart like the conference and like running a parenting group at one of my mental health clinic that I worked at as things I enjoyed and things that lit me up, but I wasn't able to articulate the why behind it and like connect the dots.
Glad you said that too, because I wanted to like fully connect the dots for people around your business endeavor, how that is in alignment with your third P or population and issue. So with the career clarity framework, there are three specific areas that I help my coaching clients identify: their passions, their purpose, not the purpose to life. I'm not a life coach. We don't get that deep.
I mean, we got pretty deep.
We
I'd
did.
say you were kind of like a life coach for me. I don't know.
I always tell people I'm trying to get my own life together. Okay, but yeah, so
We all are.
it's your career purpose. It's like the bigger why behind your career, but also how you want to show up in your daily work. And then the third P is your population or issue. When Amy was going through the framework, the clarity framework, she identified that she was passionate about youth, like youth development, and specifically like through sports, Amy, you the expert. Like
Yeah,
holistic
holistic
interventions.
health and wellness. I was
Yeah.
targeting all the organizations that were supporting children and families' mental health in innovative ways through sports and fitness. And
Yes.
Yeah,
So it
I
makes perfect sense, your business endeavor, because you're doing a two-generational approach. You can't do that work with the littles one-on-one, not yet until they get a little bit older. But
yeah.
you're doing the next best thing. You're doing it with their first teacher, their parents. When the parents are whole people, and I'm not saying they're not whole people, I'm just using my own. When the parents are whole people, they're then able to provide those environments that Amy would ideally like every child to have. But what we found in the framework is that Amy was super passionate about families, children, supportive environment. So I named that for everyone to show that the clarity she got really is the fundamental, the foundational piece in everything that she's doing now. It's still the through line. I love that, Amy. So we're gonna wrap up the call. But before we do that, the episode, before we do that, I want you to leave the people with something, a final thought, a gem, something. I don't care what it is. Maybe it's something that you think they need to hear. Maybe it's something that you needed to hear to make the decision to join the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator.
Take a bet on yourself because nobody else will. Trust me, I've invested in programs before that I would say I think of everything as a lesson, so I didn't regret it, but I didn't get what I wanted out of it. And I think with the Micro to Macro Accelerator program, it really is like it meets all the boxes. It's not typical career coaching, and just be unapologetic about your own success. My word of like the second half of the year, I don't remember what my word in January was, but recently my word has been unapologetic because I work with moms and then I also support social workers through Ripple Collective. And I think social workers and who are primarily women, of course, we have male peers as colleagues as well, and moms and women, we always apologize. Like, how many times do we catch ourselves saying, sorry about that, sorry I'm late, sorry this, um, sorry, like, just unapologetically focus on you and your needs as a social worker, as a human. You deserve to have these wins, to have career clarity. These are things that I wish and believe should be taught in school, but unfortunately they're not. So, the same way we invest in college and grad school, we need to invest in other areas of our lives.
I had to write that down. I'm gonna make that into something. Be unapologetic about your success. I love that one. Y'all need to write that down and put that in your office, your cubicle on the dashboard. I love it. I'm gonna borrow that one.
Go
But I
for
will give you credit.
it.
So tell the people where they like what you have going on. Where can they find you? Because they will look you up, Amy.
So I am on LinkedIn. I haven't been on LinkedIn as much since I started online entrepreneurship because I'm focusing on learning Instagram and TikTok. Um, so I am on LinkedIn though, and I always check my messages. So that's a great place if you just want to reach out to connect. If you want to see what I'm working on behind the scenes, I'm on Instagram. It's waves underscore of underscore becoming, and TikTok is the same. I'm also on Facebook. I will give Marthea all the information to share with you all. And, I was in your shoes not long ago, because even after her program, when I became a mom and my life got turned upside down for the best. I love my daughter, she's great. But I was back listening to her podcast episodes, being like, can I do this still? Like, is it too late? Did I fail? So just know, like, even if you already did her program, and you want to chat through anything, I'm happy to connect.
I love that one most
Oh,
definitely.
I would just add to also, like I mentioned, Ripple Collective. I am the community manager through Ripple Collective. So I'm going to talk to Marthea offline about doing something through Ripple because I know that community could needs clarity as well. And yeah, if you're interested in that as well, please reach out to me. They're also on Instagram, and all the things. So yeah. I'm excited to connect with more social workers.
I love that. That is a great way to end this conversation. Most definitely connect with Amy. For those who are listening, if you are interested in learning more about the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, I encourage you to click the link down in the episode description box in the show notes and visit macroandpaid.com. You can learn more about the program designs. You can look at other client testimonials, but you can also join the wait list. Right now, I'm gearing up for enrollment into cohort 21. Amy went through cohort 9.
Good for you, Marcia. Wow.
We have been going
Wow.
strong
Wow.
with this for a little over 5 years. So, cohort 21's enrollment will officially start the end of August. But if you click the link and visit macroandpaid.com, you get all of the details and the information there. You can schedule a get to know you chat with me. Amy did that as well, where we sit down and talk about your needs and your goals, and I talk about the program, and I'll be honest with you if it's a good fit or not for you, but I would love to talk with you. All right, Amy, I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And
This
I was,
was great.
yes, to everyone else, happy macro career planning. Bye.